If you're looking for high-yield opportunities, one of the asset classes you need to be aware of is BDCs, business development companies. We track these companies in depth over on dividendology.com. I even have an entire database that I update every few weeks to provide further insight into this asset class, and one of the things you'll notice is the vast majority of these stocks have double-digit dividend yields. They pay out massive dividends. However, if we look at the Van Eck BDC Income ETF, an ETF that tracks a conglomeration of BDCs, it's down 25% now in the last year. And in fact, year to date, it's now down by about 10.51%, putting its trailing 12-month yield at above 13%. Now, you might think that's typical for high-yielding stocks, but BDCs have seen multiple environments where they've actually outperformed the S&P 500. If we look at the bottom of 2022 up until the tariff scare of 2025, BDCs actually outperformed the S&P 500 while providing those massive double-digit dividend yields. That's pretty incredible. So what's changed? What happened to the BDC market to cause such a stark sell-off over the last year? And perhaps the most important question is, has this created opportunities for certain BDCs? The reality is that many BDCs are now trading at large discount to their net asset value while still producing strong net investment income. So let's ask, are BDCs becoming structurally riskier? Are investors being handed one of the best entry points in years? And which BDCs are currently the best opportunity for high yield dividends? Now, when we look at the Dividendology BDC database, again, it's quite obvious why people are interested in BDCs. The starting yields are incredibly high. In fact, the average yield for the BDCs in the Dividendology database is sitting at 13.79% when we talk about the base yield, but sitting at 14.56% when we talk about the total yield. What does that mean? Why is there a difference? Why is there two dividend yields? Well, we have to remember the total yield accounts for special dividends the BDC has paid out. So let's look at an example. The most commonly known BDC is probably Main Street Capital. You can see it listed right here. What do you notice? The base dividend yield is sitting at 5.4%, while the total dividend is 7.5%. Remember, the total dividend yield accounts for the special dividends that have been paid out. So when we look at this charted out, we can see their base dividends they paid out since 2008 have actually been increasing every single year. But their supplemental dividends, their special dividends can actually fluctuate quite a bit depending on the different environments that they're operating in. So you can see from 2013 really to about 2019, 2020, they were paying out quite a bit in special dividends. Then they reduced special dividends in 2021, and they've ramped up considerably from 2022 through 2025. Now, in just a moment, we're going to be talking about why that was the case, and it's absolutely critical to understand because we're about to see a massive change. So with that in mind, it's obvious the total amount paid out in dividends from BDCs can fluctuate quite a bit. In fact, if we go back and look at the Van Eck BDC Income ETF and jump over to the dividend history, what we'll see is actually a little bit alarming. What we can see is if we look at the last 3 years, the past two distributions that they've made have been the lowest they paid out in the last 3 years. Typically, they've been paying out closer to the 44, 46 range, even 47 cents per share range. But the last two distributions were only 40 cents per share. Obviously, the people who are looking to utilize dividend income to supplement their lifestyle or even attempt to live off dividends, seeing a reduction in dividend payouts is a very big deal. Even if we see share price declines, ideally we want to see those dividend payments be able to be sustained. So the point I'm trying to make is this is concerning. Now, with that being said, there are other options than BIZD. For example, if we look at the ETF HIPS, the US High Income ETF, there's a major focus on BDCs. And while obviously the BDC market as a whole has dragged it down in 2025, it's only down by about 1%, while yielding close to around 11%. But most importantly, if we look at the dividend history of this fund, they've been able to maintain those high distributions, paying out around 11 cents per share for the last few years now. So this is quite a bit different than when we compare HIPS to BIZD. But keep in mind, HIPS also has exposure to some other companies as well, different asset classes, such as MLPs, which have actually done really well so far in 2026 and provide high starting dividend yields as well. But what if we want to dive even deeper and look at individual BDCs? Well, then we have to remember a BDC is almost always going to be valued entirely based upon their ability to pay dividends. And this is in part due to the fact that they are required by law to pay out 90% of their earnings in the form of a dividend, just like REITs are, for example. So to truly be able to value and analyze a BDC, we must make sure we have a basic understanding of their structure, because ultimately that will tell us whether or not those dividends are sustainable. Business development companies were created by Congress in 1980, and essentially they're just a publicly traded investment company that primarily lends money to middle market businesses. The key is they lend the money. So they typically lend to companies that generate between $10 million and $250 million in annual cash flow. Now this is interesting because this means these companies are typically too small to issue bonds in public markets, but also too large or too complex for traditional lending. So it creates a massive financing gap, and this is exactly why BDCs were created. So instead of issuing mortgages or credit cards like a bank, BDCs primarily make private loans to businesses. So just in the same way you could argue that a REIT is a portfolio of leases, BDCs are a portfolio of loans. So the model is actually pretty simple at a high level. They borrow money at one rate and lend it out at a higher rate, and the difference between those two rates is the net investment spread. So here's what a very simplified example would look like. Their average loan yield at 10.5%, while their cost of borrowing is at 5.5%, meaning their net investment spread is 5%. So obviously, the higher the spread, generally speaking, the better. And of course, the stronger the loans, the stronger the underlying companies that are taking on the loans, the healthier the BDC is. So the question is, what changed that caused BIZD, the BDC ETF, to drop by almost 11% year to date? If we look at the BDCs in the Dividendology database, the past 3-month change has not been pretty. Nearly all of them are down by double-digit amounts. It's pretty ridiculous. Again, why has this happened? Well, keep in mind, over the last 3 years, BDCs benefited from a nearly perfect environment. The vast majority of loans issued by BDCs are floating rate. Again, look at the Dividendology database. We cover this. Look at the variable rate debt for these BDCs. The majority of them are sitting in the 80 to 95% range. That's a lot of variable rate debt. So what does that mean? Well, it means BDCs are now facing a major issue. Actually, two major issues. Number one is declining rates. Since September, we've already seen 3 rate cuts. Now, keep in mind, the environment that allowed BDCs to perform so well was a rising interest rate environment. This caused BDCs to collect far more interest income, again, because they had large amounts of variable rate debt. The interest they were collecting was climbing higher, so as a result, net investment income rose sharply, dividends increased across the sector, and BDC stock prices rallied. Again, this was the exact reason Main Street Capital was able to substantially increase the supplemental dividends they were paying out. You should be connecting the dots now. But now we've started to see that dynamic reversed. Again, 3 rate cuts since September, and we should be seeing a couple more in the coming year. So to reiterate, because BDC loans are floating rate, falling interest rates reduce loan income. This directly reduces the net investment income and will end up pressuring the dividend payouts, which, like I mentioned earlier, is the exact reason BIZD has recently paid out its lowest distribution in over 3 years. But that's just one of 2 major issues. The second one requires quite a bit more in-depth research into each individual BDC, and that's software lending concerns. As you probably already know, the software market has been absolutely hammered in 2026, mainly due to the threat of AI eroding their moat, eroding their competitive advantage. Now, as this relates to BDCs, we have to remember roughly 20% of the loans that they give out are tied to software companies. And this shouldn't really come as a surprise because historically, these private equity firms have favored software companies because they have recurring revenue models, asset-light operations, and obviously very high growth potential as a result. And so there was a lot of software loans giving out, particularly during a time period when technology valuations were extremely high. So what's changed since then? Software valuations have declined due to AI, growth expectations have moderated again due to AI, and as a result, interest expenses have increased. So what do all 3 of these things do? They start to create credit risk. What if these software companies actually default? What if they can't make their interest payments to the BDC? Again, that ends up playing a major role on whether or not BDCs can pay dividends. So what's the result of these 2 major threats? Well, obviously the result is the sell-off we've seen so far in 2026. But the sell-off isn't purely due to a drop in net investment income for BDCs, at least not yet. Many of them have actually been able to sustain and even grow their net asset value. So what does that mean? Well, it means if the share price is declining while their net asset value is at least simply staying the same, it means valuations are becoming more attractive. Again, this becomes abundantly clear when we look at the Dividendology database. The valuation we typically use for BDCs is the price to tangible book value per share, or the price to net asset value. What we can see here is the price to net asset value for BDCs. What you'll notice is most of them are sitting at a price to net asset value of below 1. If the price to net asset value for a BDC is trading below 1, it essentially means that the market price of the stock is trading below the value of its underlying assets, which thus means one of two things. The BDC could be an incredible opportunity, or it means the market is expecting net investment income will drop with rates declining, and the BDCs that are overexposed to weak software companies will face real difficulty with maintaining their dividends. In other words, the market expects a dividend cut. For reference, out of the 42 BDCs actively tracked in the Dividendology database, only 5 are trading at a price to net asset value of above 1. Most BDCs are at a discount. So how do we start to narrow down where the opportunities in the BDC market actually are? Well, there's a couple of different things we can do, but let's start by narrowing down our options, almost creating an investable universe with BDCs. And this is really quite easy when using the Dividendology BDC database because all the data you actually need is already provided. I conglomerate this again every few weeks. This is data that's not available on most traditional softwares. So let's go ahead and zoom in and screen out some of these BDCs. Now, to start, what we want to look at is base dividend coverage. Is the dividend currently covered? For a lot of BDCs, the answer is no. Again, you want to see base dividend coverage of at least 100%. Net investment income needs to be covering the dividend for the dividend to be sustainable. So if we run a screen, let's filter by condition and say we only want to look at the BDCs that have base dividend coverage of greater than or equal to 100. All of a sudden, our BDC universe has gone from 42 BDCs down to 22. We weeded out about half the BDCs just like that. Now remember, as we're in a declining rate environment, one of the things we need to account for is what variable rate debt actually looks like. Now, there's undoubtedly some BDCs that will be able to account for higher variable rate debt if they have very strong loans. But let's go ahead and weed out some of those with the highest variable rate debt. Again, we'll filter by condition and say we only want BDCs with variable rate debt less than or equal to 95%. Now we went from 22 to 18 BDCs. We weeded out about 4. Now finally, let's look for BDCs that are actually growing intrinsic value. So for example, let's look at the 5-year tangible book value per share CAGR. For many BDCs, this number is actually negative, meaning intrinsic value is declining. Now to some degree, this can be somewhat common because they're paying out so much in dividends, but we still want to see intrinsic value growing. So again, we'll be a bit lenient and say we want this number to be greater than or equal to -1%. So we're giving a little bit of leeway here. And all of a sudden, after running 3 simple screens, our BDC universe is down to just 7 BDCs. If we zoom in, we can see we have popular BDCs you may have heard of before, like Ares Capital Corporation, Fidus Investment Corporation, Main Street Capital, but perhaps some other BDCs you might not be as familiar with. Now, the reality is that you could take this much further, and that's exactly what I do over on Dividendology.com. There's a link to it in the description, or you can scan the QR code that I'm putting on the screen right now. But the reality is when you're analyzing BDCs right now, you need to, one, yes, analyze how exposed they are to changing interest rate environments, but also analyze how exposed are they to the software sector and how strong are the companies they're lending to in the software sector. It starts to get a lot more detailed. So let's just look at one example, Main Street Capital. Fundamentally speaking, the strongest BDC out there, total yield of around 7.5% with base dividend coverage very strong at 134.6%. This is a BDC that's been growing net asset value for 14 consecutive quarters. Their net investment income continues to easily cover those dividend payments as we see with the base dividend coverage. And they recently paid out their 18th consecutive supplemental dividend, which again is why the total yield is higher than the base yield. Now, like I said, fundamentally speaking, there's no doubt that Main Street Capital is one of the strongest BDCs out there. And again, it's evident because they continue to grow their net asset value. If we jump over to ticker.com, just look at the growth of their net asset value per share over the last few years. We see consistent growth, and that's projected to continue to be the case. But the reality is this type of quality, especially when it comes to the BDC sector, comes at a price. Look at the valuation multiple for this stock. Look at the price to tangible book value per share, especially in the last 5 years. What do you notice? Main Street Capital's price to tangible book value per share has been above 1 for the entirety of the last 5 years. It's always traded at a premium to the value of its underlying assets. And there's been periods of time where that premium is significant. In early 2021, they climbed all the way up to a 1.94 times price to tangible book value per share. Investors are paying nearly 2 times what their underlying assets were worth. In early 2025, this actually got above 2, and it happened again mid-2025. But in the last year, we've started to see this pull back. It's getting closer to where it was during the tariff scare of 2025. Right now, it's sitting at about 1.72 times. The question, obviously, is this type of valuation justified? Keep in mind, if you ever want to get access to Ticker, there is a link in the description, and if you use code DIVIDEND20, you can actually get 20% off. This is a great platform. I've started using it a lot more recently, so be sure to check it out at the link in the description. But again, is this valuation justified? Now, remember the two major risks to BDCs right now. It's software exposure and it's variable rate debt. But when we zoom in and take a closer look at Main Street Capital, what we can see is their variable rate debt is considerably lower than other BDCs, sitting at just 53.8%, meaning they're considerably stronger than other BDCs in a falling rate environment. So they definitely check that box. This is the BDC that will be least negatively impacted by BDC rate cuts. So the other question is, what about software exposure? Well, when it comes to the loans they've given out, their CEO recently noted that their software exposure is only in the mid-single digits. Only in the mid-single digits. Keep in mind, like I mentioned earlier, across the BDC universe, roughly 20% of loans are tied to software companies. So Main Street Capital has very low risk when it comes to declining rates and exposure to software companies. Again, simply put, this is the strongest structurally BDC on the market. There's absolutely no doubt. And they're structured the best to currently face the headwinds facing the BDC market. So yes, the valuation has come down, but it will still be quite interesting to see how the changes in the market environment impacts the supplemental dividends currently being paid out. So the BDC market as a whole is incredibly interesting right now. There's a lot of dangerous BDC investment opportunities. A lot of BDCs will be reducing their dividend in the coming years. But if you're prudent about evaluating their exposure to interest rate changes, about their exposure to software companies, you can absolutely find opportunities. And again, that's exactly what I've been researching over on DividendOlogy.com, creating in-depth reports for you to review and for you to find the best opportunities. So again, be sure to check out DividendOlogy.com at the link in the description, or you can simply scan the QR code that I'm putting on the screen right now. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.